the Soundcraft MTK 12 signature. This is Premium Productions. Today we're going to be talking about one of the only 12 input, 12 output, really is 12 input, 14 output USB audio interfaces slash mixers that exist. Most mixers that look like this, they have all these knobs and bells and whistles, but you actually only could record on 2 channels. With this, each one of these channels could be individually recorded on. So this is really good for if you have a band or something and you don't want everybody coming in on 2 tracks and you want to be able to go back and individually edit things later. This is what you want. Or if you have a podcast, this is what you want. Now, that's not going to be live though. That podcast is going to be pre-recorded, and I'm going to tell you why. This has no loop back feature. One of the super cons of this device is that it has no loop back feature. So you're going to find yourself using third-party plugins with this in order to get that effect. And let me tell you, it is not a walk in the park. OBS does not make it easy for you. The third-party plugins does not make it easy for you. You know, virtual cable, all these different plugins and softwares that they have, they make it extremely not intuitive to get a live stream going with this. Now you could use this individually live streaming, but it's going to record 1 channel. You're not going to be able to come in on, channel 5 and slowly come up. It's not going to do none of that. Now, if you're not going live, this is what you want. If you're doing this strictly for recording audio and you want to have a sound signature that is close to recording on an analog desk, this is what you want to play with. You know, if you watch those dudes that are in the major recording studios and they got the SSLs and all of that, this is as close as you're going to get for under, I want to say, $3-4 grand, right? And if you get something that's closer than this, it's not going to have a USB connection. I'm going to put it like that. It's going to be an actual analog desk. You could pay a couple grand for one. And what you're going to want to do is make sure it has inputs and outputs. You're going to be coming out of an interface that has at least 8 outputs and 8 inputs. Brings us to the Quantum. You want something that's like a Quantum or better, something with some good A to D, D to A, and you will come out of the back of that Quantum and you will plug it into an analog desk. And then you will come back out of that analog desk and plug it back into the Quantum, whether you're going track by track or you want to plug the masters of that analog desk, the master right and left channel, into the input on your interface. And then you could do an analog sum like that. That also will get you where you want to be. So it really depends on how much space you have. But if your space is limited and you can't purchase a large desk, or if you don't have the budget to purchase such a desk with high quality components, you want to play the Soundcraft signature game. You know what I'm saying? Downsides, no loop back. So no loop back feature. If you do loop back, you're going to have to physically loop back. And, meaning you would probably have to come out of these outputs, your left and right outputs, and come back into one of these channels and something like that. It gets really weird and tricky, but you can do it, right? So this isn't the best for OBS. You could get a much cheaper interface if you want to do, YouTube tutorials on your sessions and stuff like that. You get something like a Motu M2 that has a built-in loopback feature just off the bat. You get one of those for probably $100 by now or less. This is for audio quality specifically. This right here will allow you to do analog sums, like how they have the Dangerous box where you could do an analog sum and all that cool stuff, and analog summing, and you hear all this stuff about, these plugins where you could do analog summing. This right here is real deal actual analog summing, and that's what you're paying for. You're paying for analog summing. You're paying for effects. Lexicon effects. This has lexicon effects. This has ghost preamps. From the preamps on this comes directly from the Soundcraft Ghost. which was a very serious console back in the day. I'm not going to say it was an SSL, but it got the job done on a high level in the 90s. So these are some very nice microphone preamps. Um, each one of these channels, you got your aux send and return. So you could put your built-in lexicon effects, which they have a very good tape effect. The tape delay is really good on here. The reverb is fairly decent on here. And it really just puts you on your way fast without doing a lot of hassling. So when you come through this, you're already somewhat on your way before you even hit the interface. Before, I mean, not interface, before you even hit your DAW, you kind of on your way using this, right? Like I said, if you're a soloist guitar player or something, you like to play the guitar while you sing, good for that. If you got a band, it's good for that, because each one of these are going to record at the same time individually. It's not going to come out on 1-2 track. It's going to come out multiple tracks. You could set this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you could have that 7 tracks on your digital workstation, recording at different volumes with at the same time with different EQ settings on each one. So it's good for that. Like I said, the analog summing does make a difference. You open a stereo track and you sum with it. Shout out Bill Buckaloo. Watch that guy on YouTube. He shows you how to really get into it and how to analog stem and run tracks through this device. This is a USB device, and like I said, it's one of a kind. It's not a lot of devices that can actually even record 12 simultaneous tracks at the same time. Most of them, your Behringers and your Mackeys, most of them, they have all these faders, but they're going to all record onto 2 tracks. You'd be lucky if you get 4 out of them, but normally you're just going to record onto 2 tracks, so you do not have the actual control like it seems you do. Now, as far as the problems with this, loopback. For sure, loopback, not having loopback is a big problem. This also does not have outs. You may look at this like, oh, that's the in, that's the out. You think that they would do that, but they didn't, which I don't understand what they were thinking. This is just an instrument input, which I feel like these should have been combo jacks and these should have been outs. So these are both inputs, which totally, from a professional level, cripples the whole device to me. But for the majority of the people that's watching this video, that's not going to be a deal breaker for you. You just want a clean mix, and you might not be that advanced where you're really going in and out and using all these other little weird pieces I got on my desk and all of that stuff. That might not be what time it is for you, but for me, totally, it's just ridiculous that they did that. Another downside to this is that it's going to break. The reliability on these are awful. And when I say break, I mean the power supply in these are going to go. There's no way around it. You can say what you want. There is no one that ever had one of these that the power supply didn't eventually go. And if it is that person that exists, that is a very responsible person that has this hooked up to some sort of a power strip where he is turning it off immediately after he uses it. This guy might use it for an hour, hour and a half, turn it completely off. This device has no off switch. So you would have to physically unplug it, or you would have to physically reach down to your power strip and flick the switch and cut the whole power to the system. With that being said, this thing is going to burn power supplies. And if you want your power supply to last, you're going to have to cut this off. There's no way around it. This is not a set and forget piece where it could just be on in the background. And since it doesn't have a power strip, don't worry. It doesn't have a power button. Don't worry about it. Let it chill. That's not how it works. They didn't put a power button on this. I don't know whose idea that was, how that made sense to them. But like I said, they did a few things with this that doesn't make any sense. No outputs on each channel absolutely makes no sense whatsoever. If you're marketing this to be a professional, semi-professional device, I don't understand how they allowed you to get out of the production room without outputs on this. I don't know how that meeting took place and happened, and the signature was signed on this. Say, yep, I want to put this on the market with no outs. I don't understand that. what conversation that was made, this this device was directed at professional people, because the average person my age wouldn't even be interested in something like this, and they would not even understand or know about this, right? The average person that's in my age group was not even born when a Soundcraft Ghost came out. That is from the 90s or something, you know? So the average person on today's market, they're going to get an interface, plug it into their USB, plug up a mic, and go. Once you start playing with this, you're talking about audio analog. A lot of people doesn't even understand analog. A lot of people still argue that analog doesn't matter, it's for old people and all this nonsense, because they have no idea what they're talking about. Me, I'm blessed amongst young people to understand that analog is absolutely superior. There's no argument with it. You know, your record is not going to sound like Michael Jackson's record. Okay, Michael Jackson was not using plugins. You see what I'm saying? Like when you hear uh, Luther Vandross's vocal chain, you're out of your mind if you think he was doing that with an interface using plugins. That's asinine, right? So all the iconic people, Van Halen, all these serious people, all the Motown guys, your Luther Vandrosses, you know, your Michael Jacksons, you got to understand they were not using plugins. So what were they doing? They were using analog. And that's why their vocals are extremely full and round. Frank Sinatra was not punching in to a plug-in. So a lot of young people would disagree with what I said. They, you know, like I say, guys my age, like I said, they're gonna plug in an interface, and they're gonna slap 40 plugins on a vocal, and they're just gonna overbake it and say, hey man, that's what it is. Then they're gonna send it off to mastering and tell me it's all the same. No, it's not all the same. And you're sending it off to mastering because it's not the same. That's why you're sending it there, because the guy in the mastering studio knows something that you don't know. He's a mastering engineer, and you better believe that he is using analog. So the fact that these guys understood all that and decided not to put outs on this is insane to me. How do you not put outs on this? Whoever is buying something like this is clearly in the world of analog. Clearly. That's why they would be interested in even purchasing something like this. Why would you get this big bulky device when you could just go get an RME? You know, you could just go, and RME is for grown people that understand what's going on. Most kids my age don't even understand RME or what is the point of it. They're going to go and get a M audio or something, right? So why do this? Why would you not put a power button on this device if you know that the power supply is going to burn out? Certain things about this makes no sense, but you deal with it because the audio signature on this is very clean and round. These little, on your mastering chain, not mastering, but your master bus, this high, this low is very good. It is ridiculously good. You don't get a lot of control, but man, when I tell you, you turn that high, it's gonna open your whole mix up. It is, there is no plugin. I mean, if there's plugins that's gonna open it up like this, I'd have to give it to Nebula. You know, it's gonna be some sort of a program in Nebula, Acoustica Audio Nebula. Outside of that, no plugin is gonna open your mix up in the level of three-dimensional range that this desk is going to do. This low frequency, when you get down to these lows, it's going to add roundness and bass that is just ridiculous. I mean, it's super fat and round, circular, none of those square signs. It's going to be very round. So with that being said, it's like, this is like a luxury car that doesn't make sense, right? It's gonna be a pain to work with. You know what I mean? You know, the gas mileage on it's gonna be bad. The maintenance is bad, but you kind of get over it because it drives so good. You know, it's just like, man, you'd be hard pressed to find something that can go 0 to 60 like this, that could turn a corner and get you to your destination in style with the speed and efficiency that this can. Working in the box, you could work for hours, and you will work for hours, for sure. If you're dealing with plugins, you're going to keep on moving that mouse around and working for hours, whereas this, will get you about 70–80% of the way within about 5–10 minutes. Just move a couple, you know. So that's the thing. That's my review on the Soundcraft MTK Signature. This is the 12. It comes in the 22. You know, same thing. You just get 22 channels. You don't need it unless you got a band or you're doing something extra. You don't need all those channels. Yeah, this is a very serious device. I actually like it better than my PreSonus Quantum, but my PreSonus Quantum definitely has a better headphone jack than this, and perhaps maybe better A to D, D to A converters as well. I'm not sure, but quite possibly. I know I can hear myself a lot better and more clear in my PreSonus Quantum. So it's your gives and takes. If you guys know anything about this device, leave a comment. Let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. If you agree, if you disagree, let me know why. If you never learned anything and I taught you something new, hey, holler at me. Let me know. If there's anything else you want to know about anything else that I have, holler at me. I got my speakers and, you know, everything else. Just let me know, guys. And I'm signing out. Premium Productions.